as I've gotten better at motherhood, it's made me a better business owner. The two are very connected. And so as I've become a more regulated mom, I've become a more regulated business owner. I have boundaries set in place so that if something doesn't feel aligned, I know to let it go. I'm not attached to the outcome of things.
This one's for the parents building big things in tiny pockets of time. Take a deep breath. You've landed somewhere real. Hey, I'm Gabs Hayes, mom of 3, business mentor, and your go-to voice note battle buddy for anyone who's ever whispered, I love this life, but holy shit, it's a lot. We had one coffee chat and I was just like, she's my people. And if we lived closer, we would be doing life together and raising kids together. And one day we're going to make that happen. But until then, this is where we hang out and how we get to know each other. So Haley, I'm so excited for you to be on the podcast. Please share yourself, your story to the Overwhelmed and Over audience.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Haley. I am first and foremost a mom of 2 girls, 2 world changers. They are 2 and 7 years old, and I learn something new from them every day. I am blessed to be able to work from home as a owner of a podcast agency. So I launch and manage podcasts all day long. So it's always fun to get on the other side of the microphone, and I can't wait for our conversation today.
Yeah, you guys, when I decided to invite Haley onto the podcast and I had to send her my guest whole booking process, I got a little imposter syndrome because I was like, she's totally going to judge me in the best way. But at the same time, this is great. This is why you have friends in the industry so they can tell you like, hey, you need to make these tweaks. These are things that you should change. So I'm glad that we got you here and that we're getting to have this chat today.
Yeah, I mean, just for everyone listening, her intake form is incredible. So if you're ever on the podcast, just know that you will have a very streamlined workflow.
I'll take it. Well, Haley, I wanted to talk a little bit about your backstory because you've made some pivots and some changes specifically because you are a mom and you're home with your girls and you've really had to lean into and learn like, how do you make business work with tiny humans pretty much around us 24/7? What would you tell someone who's in those shoes like we are today?
Yeah, so I'll just do like a very quick TLDR of how I got here. I got pregnant, 7 years ago, and I was living in a different state. And I told my husband, hey, we need to go back home. I need to be near my mom when I have this baby. I need my village. So we came back home, and I was jobless. We were living with my mom, and this opportunity fell in my lap for me to be able to work from home. This was back in 2017, like way before COVID, before working from home was what it is. And so I was like, I mean, I guess, like, we'll see. And at that OBM agency I was working at, that's where I was really introduced to podcasting, and they ended up closing in 2019. And so my husband was like, hey, you should just try it on your own. Try to start your own business and see what happens. And so thankful for him that he did that, because it has, one, afforded me the ability of staying home with both of my babies. It's taught me so much about myself. And I think when you're a business owner, it teaches you a lot about the way you want to parent as well, because there are so many overlaps. And so my business has gone through so many changes, so many ebbs and flows, and it's been so amazing. But of course, like, there's been so many lessons learned along the way. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to share on this podcast, I think that I want to take you guys back to when I was pregnant with my second, if that's okay. How does that sound?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So when I was pregnant with my second, my first, she had just started preschool, so she was in school for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that felt crazy, right? Like, from going to her being home all day long to now having 3 dedicated hours, even though it's only 3 hours, I felt like on top of the world, and I grew my business at a really fast pace. And then I got pregnant, and at that time, I think I had like between 17 and 20 clients, which is the most roster clients I've ever had. And unfortunately, when I'm pregnant, I'm one of the women who has the horrible morning sickness all day long, through every trimester. And it was hard. It was getting to the point where I didn't have any energy. I didn't feel like myself. I was quickly becoming just so apathetic towards my business, because just felt like something I had to do instead of something that I got to do because I was feeling so sick and honestly burnt out. I'm growing this tiny human, trying to grow my business, trying to be a present mom to my then 4-year-old, and trying to be a good wife on top of it all. And it was just like something has to give. And I decided that something was going to be my business. I mean, that's the only thing it could have been, right? Like, I can't stop being a mom, I can't stop being a spouse. So, pretty much overnight, I spent over half of my client roster emails saying, hey, I'm trimming my business down. I'm only offering this one package. If you don't fit, like, sorry, I'm wishing you the best. I just can't do this anymore. And that sucked. And it was, I don't want to say like a horrible decision, but it was a very hard decision because once I had my baby, I knew that the day would come where I'd have to pretty much start all over again. And so that was hard. But again, it was needed. Then once that happened, I worked to make sure, like, okay, I'm going to take a maternity leave. I had one client at the time that I'm so grateful for who paid me through my maternity leave. And then I prepped so I could have 6 weeks off. Shout out to my team. And then in that time, I was really intentional about creating the systems and the processes and the SOPs and being able to just continually check in with myself so that when I had that new time capacity, new emotional capacity, new energy, when you get out of that newborn phase and I felt comfortable to grow again, I was doing it sustainably this time. And I think the most important thing to note is I like never did any of this alone. I always had the support of a coach of some sort, a community of some sort, and then obviously like my husband and my mom. And I think there's really no such thing as a solopreneur because even if you're the only one working in your business, you have people who are helping you in other areas of your life that help make that happen. So that was super long-winded. I'm ready for some questions.
I resonate a lot with this though, because there's been multiple parts of my story where I've had to make some really tough decisions that in the end financially put us in a place that I would never want to do for our
Hmm.
family. But I was recently in like a co-working community networking call, and they were talking about like, but what do you do? Like, you can't just let your income go. And yes, that's valid, but I think there is something to be said. And shout out to my husband too, and like the dads here who are like literally keeping us together. Like, they don't get enough
Hmm.
credit that they actually are holding it down for us and keeping us together. In that, my husband finally looked at me one day and he's like, "And if you die, because you are literally running yourself in the ground, what good does the money do anyway? Like, it's
Hmm.
gone. So if you can't make it while you're here and you're alive, you might as well be freaking happy and enjoying yourself and be present." And, we've had to have a conversation of like, sometimes his support in that I'd rather you just let it all go and just be happy and be present can sometimes feel dismissive of like, you're not understanding my passion for my business and this love that I have. But also, like you're saying, solopreneur by legal definition does not mean that you're doing this alone. And you need those people in your corner who are like, are you actually showing up the way you want to show up? Are you
Hmm.
taking care of yourself? Are you present? Are you happy? Because you're not actually going to probably sit down and ask yourself those questions. You're going to keep trying to push forward. And so it's so helpful when we have those people who like are pushing us and shoving us in ways that we probably wouldn't do for ourselves. And I know you mentioned you've always kind of had a coach or a community. What has that given you to have that in your corner as you're in this like super crazy phase of life where we're doing two of the never ending jobs at the same time?
Yeah. So before digging into that, I just want to say one thing when you said like shout out to our husbands. My marriage was not easy when I was trying to push through my business because you bring so much of that into your relationship. And now, like when I've given myself that space to take time to grow, to regulate, oh my gosh, my relationship with my husband is so much easier. It's so much better. And there's just so much more understanding there. So, yes, shout out to the hubbies. Shout out to you, Dwayne Hatcher, if you're listening. So, right now, actually, I don't have my coach is not a business coach. her platform is like both and motherhood. So she helps entrepreneurs who are mothers learn to balance the two. And I think like that, I was really scared to invest in her coaching because it felt like, well, if I get better at motherhood, that doesn't make me more money, right? But as I've gotten better at motherhood, it's made me a better business owner. Like I said, the two are very connected. And so as I've become a more regulated mom, I've become a more regulated business owner, which means I can better show up for my clients. I have more energy to show up on LinkedIn and places like that. I now know exactly who I want to call into my business. I have boundaries set in place so that if something doesn't feel aligned, I know to let it go. I'm not attached to the outcome of things. Gosh, I could literally go on for an hour about all of the amazing things that like healing yourself does for your business.
You find moms and dads who are also entrepreneurs, we find kind of people that are in two camps. They grew their business first, then they decided to have kids, and that throws your world upside down. And then there's those of us who had kids first and then had our business, and that also throws your world upside down. So I think no matter what camp you fall in, it's hard. And we see you and we honor you. There is something to be said that one or the other completely does prepare you for the journey, like no matter which way you go, because I'm with you. I mean, I look at, let's see, my oldest was 9 when I launched my business. And so I can talk to clients in certain ways because I know how to nurture them. I know how to mother them. And just before we started recording, we were talking about our, two of our kids having super big feelings. There's also clients that have super big feelings. There's also clients that get extremely emotional about what's going on. And that's fair. That's valid. Now, their reaction may not be, and that's another conversation, but you are in a place to hold that space for them and walk with them through that journey because we're doing it every day at home. And vice versa. Like, parenting is nothing but an experiment, right? I mean, you could read all the books in the world, you can have all the coaches in the world, but at the end of the day, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're figuring it out as we go. And so like that has given me that freedom to also do that in my business and not be scared of what could be on the other side of it. And so I love that you're just like calling out this interconnectedness. And I just have to give a quick shout out. If you are a podcaster, you've got to be on Haley's newsletter list because like I literally look for her name to pop up in my email box because I know she's going to give me action. She's going to give me that like hard conversation that I need to have with myself. And so I just want to honor you too, because I think you're speaking of all of the work you've done to get here. And I see the way those systems and those boundaries and those processes are honoring and supporting you in this journey, because this journey is hard.
100%. And yeah, thank you for the shout out, especially to the newsletter, because that's something that I've been trying to be really intentional about. And again, just like detach myself from the outcome and just have the faith that, okay, these 100 people that I have on my newsletter list, they are amazing. They are enough. And when it grows, it grows. And so I'm just like planting the little seeds along the way.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Looking back now for all of your journey, what would you tell early founder Haley if she was getting started?
Learn very early on to separate your worth from the success or from the failures in your business. So I've been working really hard, like on the months where I make 10 plus K a month. I want to feel the same as on the months where I'm making only 5K. And I think when you can do that, when you can let go of that, you will just find so much more calm and confidence in who you are as a business owner. And don't invest in anyone to work with who is not also a parent.
Oh my God. Can we have like a whole mic drop moment for that? Because I tell people all the time, and I've shared the story on the podcast of like one of these coaches that I invested in, and it was just honestly like a shit show. But the problem is it's not her, right? Like, and that's part of that deep work that I had to go through of like, she didn't support me. She didn't, I didn't get the success, or I didn't get what her marketing messaging said I was supposed to get when I went through this program. But she wasn't the right person to support me. She doesn't understand my life. Our youngest was in preschool, like you were saying, like 3 hours a day. And for the longest time, I was like, I just have a couple hours to myself. And then we ended up making the decision to pull her back home, and she'll be going to kindergarten in the new school year. And already I'm like, I'm kind of coasting through here. Like I'm being really intentional with my time. I'm being present as much as I can. But I also know that this is not my explosive phase at this moment, because I have a tiny human with me 24/7. My explosive moment will come when I get a few hours to my damn self every day, and I
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like that is okay. And I think like once we take that pressure off and we can get into this mindset of like sufficiency and find the abundance where it is, even if it's not in the like monthly bank account ledger, then we will feel okay. Like we will feel grounded. Like when we were talking about earlier, like that, how I feel at the water, like that will just make everything okay.
This is such a important message, Haley, that like we really needed to share, because the reality is the parent entrepreneurs are not the influencers out there right now, because we
Hmm.
don't have freaking time for that shit. We don't have
Yeah.
time to be growing an influencer business and be the content creator and still actually run a business. Like it just is not our cards right now. So it's really hard, because we can easily get caught up in everyone else who's doing 10K, 20K, 30K months, and they're only working 4 hours a week, and all the bullshit that we're told to glamorize in entrepreneurship. And it's like the actual beauty here is it's your own journey, and you get to decide what it looks like. You get to decide what it brings into your life. And I recently listened to a podcast where there was a coach who said, and I think what was her number? She's made over 11 million since 2020. So like she's doing the thing. But she said, she was like, from day one, I decided 50 grand a year was all I cared about. And anything
Hmm.
over that was great, and it was play, and it was fun. But she was like, I was not going to set myself up to be in this constant hustle, because she's a mom of four, where every day was like, how much more money can I make? How much more money can I make? And instead it was like, that's my baseline. And once I hit that, I'm golden. Everything else is fun. And
Yep.
that's just such a different energy to show up in your business with.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I always tell people, I am so proud of my 5K business. You know what I mean? I am so proud of the months where I might be making only 5K a month or whatever, but guess what? I get to pick my daughter up from school every single day. I get to have slow mornings and cuddle with my 2-year-old every single day. Like I get to go to every ballet practice, every ballet recital, and it doesn't feel like rushed. Like I can just be present, and
Yeah.
that is priceless.
Oh, so much so. Well, Haley, I'm so glad we got to do this. How can our audience help support you? What do you and your podcast agency need right now?
Yeah, I would love to grow my email list. So if you want some of these hot takes from me and a little bit of what I'm struggling with in motherhood in the present day, then head on over and connect with me on Instagram. I'm at HeartCentered Podcasting, or LinkedIn, Haley Hatcher, and I would be so excited to connect with you.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure all your links are in the show notes too, because she recently called us indie podcasters, which I'm sure is not a new term, but it was new to me. And I was just like, I fucking love that. I'm owning it. So if you are an indie podcaster like me and you need real life tips from a mom who's also in this space, Haley is your girl. So I'll make sure you have all the links so you can connect with her.
Thank you so much.
If this episode hit home for you and you're ready to build for the visions that impact the dreams and the legacies that you have, come join us in the village. It's where this work is happening. We're stretching, growing, and going bigger without burning out. There's details in the show notes of how to join, and I cannot wait to see you there. Until next time.